Hello everyone, it's Tana. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're working with the Blooming Anemone stamp set and the Happily Ever After stamp set from the April release. So I have 3 cards for you today, and we're going to start off with this idea, and I forgot what it was called, but it was Corin Wiskman that gave me the idea, and she did it with ink blending, and I wanted to try it with a large floral stamp. So I'm putting down some washi tape here, and I'm just eyeballing it, trying to make it no more than 1/8 of an inch spaces. Some of them are larger than that. Like I said, I eyeballed it. It did not work out exactly as planned because I had to stamp my stamp or ink up my stamp so many times to make sure it's stamped in between the washi tape lines that it soaked through the washi tape that I used. So I will have to experiment with different kinds of tape if I try this again. So I had a solution for that. You'll see that a little bit later on. But here's what, and see, this washi tape ripped my paper in one spot also, which was not planned. So this is what it looks like when you take the washi tape off. And I'm going to skip ahead and stamp up our second card really quick while I have the Misty out. Excuse me. So this time we're using the single anemone flower and the single leaves or leafy branches in the stamp set. I don't know why this one's so slow. Anyway, moving on. And I'm going to mask them off as I go along because I don't want to have to worry about them when I'm placing my leafy branches. And I'm just doing a simple scene or image across the front, lower front of the panel. And I'm just going to stick the branches out from either side on the top and the bottom of each flower. And after that, we will go back to the other card. Now, I'm going to show you a little bit of coloring in this video, but just so you get an idea of what I've done, there won't be a ton of coloring in this video. And I really do like the way this pattern turned out. And of course, the revealing, I always love taking the masking paper off. It wasn't much of a reveal, huh? You guys didn't get to see much of that. You'll see it again in a second. So here I'm showing you, I had started coloring, but it was starting to get difficult about knowing where my color should be laid down. And that's the problem with a larger stamp, doing something like this. So I stamped it out on acetate, like a packaging from a stencil, let it dry, and then used it as kind of a template so I could go back and forth to see where my color should go. So that it didn't take too long. Here I have taped a piece of cardstock behind the printed panel, and it's kind of got like a pearl finish to it. I have no idea where it came from. It was in my grandmother's stash. I'm trying to cut out these strips to make sure they're the same size so I can put it together exactly as I cut it, alternating between the gold cardstock and the printed flower. And I had to do that because of the ink soaking through the washi tape and because the washi tape ripped my cardstock like pretty bad in one spot. But I do like the way this turned out with the gold in between. So now I'm going to lay down some 2-inch double-sided adhesive from scrapbook.com, and then we're going to start placing our strips. I'm trying to take my time, make sure it's straight, and make sure they line up on that first edge. You will tell that I went a little bit crooked as I went up, but it wasn't enough to make a difference in the image, and I just trimmed it down when I was done. So here we are, almost about halfway through. Sorry for my head there. And as I cut these, I laid them all up at the top of my glass mat in order so I would know exactly how to lay them back onto the card panel. I also consider using like a pearl finished green cardstock. Let me know which one you would have used in the comments below. Here we are at the end here. Now this was an odd shape. I'd have to measure it and put it in the description box for you because I had to trim it according to how the strips ended and how I wanted the image to look on the panel. I decided to cut out 3 layers of the die cut word hello from the rabbit hole designs, glued them all together, excuse me, and then use that same yellow cardstock as the shadow layer for the back of my die cut hello. Now we're going to glue the panel flat to a black card base, and I decided to go with black to match the hello. Once that dries, we're going to put hello on its shadow layer. Once again, sorry for the scratchy voice, I'm still sick. And if you watched the last video that I had up on the channel, I recorded the voiceovers in the same day. That's why my voice is still scratchy. I'm going to glue that in the upper right corner. And then I'm going to add some like black opal iridescent pearls, half pearls, to the card front. And that's it for the first card. Now back to the panel that we stamped and masked. I'm going in with my black Copic marker, trying to color very carefully around the images so I don't get black ink on them. And my intent is to color the entire panel in black. Originally, that's how I was going to leave it. But you'll notice as I get up to where there's no images, I don't like, no matter how many times I went over it, I could still see the streaks of my marker, even though I was using the chisel tip side. And I just didn't like it. So I had the idea of bringing in the fiddlehead stencil and using a black marker once again and just coloring inside each hole in the stencil to see if it would leave an imprint on the card, even though we had already colored it black. And it did work. It's kind of like a tone-on-tone background, but with the same color, same exact color. Honestly, I didn't know if that panel could take any more black ink, but it did. And I did it a little bit on the other side as well. I did, however, stay away from my images. I did not want to accidentally color down my images after all my hard work. So there is the finished product, and I'm going to use the thanks word die from Rabbit Hole and a sentiment from the coordinating stamp set. And I'm using, I believe it's Silky Sky. It'll be in the description box, mirrored cardstock from Tonic, as a frame to go around our panel and for the word thanks. So it's got 3 layers of black, the word thanks, and then Silky Sky on top of it. And I wanted the panel popped up, but I didn't want to use foam tape, so I decided to glue 3 120-pound pieces of cardstock together and then glue that to the back of my card panel. Here I am going to heat emboss my sentiment. I believe it says for everything. Thanks for being there. That's the one I chose. And I just wiped off the excess from the powder tool with a dry microfiber cloth. Here I am adhering those 3 pieces of cardstock to the back of the panel. After that dries, I will take my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive and adhere that entire thing to the front of a top folding fog card base. The fog is from Simon Says Stamp. Then I will take my thanks and only put glue on where the word is, not on the shadow layer because it's vellum. And I'm popping up the sentiment strip with foam tape and gluing that right underneath. Added 3 light blue pearls, and that's it for that second card. Now for the third card, we're kind of going to skip steps. So here I'm showing you, I just made this panel by using the 2 leafy branches in the Blooming Anemone stamp set. And then I colored the panel with pinks, oranges, and yellows. Now I'm taking a piece of vellum that has a scalloped edge on either side of the vellum panel. Can't speak today. And then I'm trimming this leafy panel down to 3 3/4 by 5 1/4 so that it's longer lengthwise than it is widthwise. And that is also going on a top folding fog card base. Here I have my image from Happily Ever After already colored and popped up on foam tape. I'm using the I can't speak today, guys. The sentiment that comes with Happily Ever After, and I believe that's what it says. Heat emboss that with clear embossing powder and just cut right around the sentiment. I like the way that looks when you're cutting close to the sentiment all the way around. Cut a scalloped heart out of vellum. Like, it's so bad today that I can't speak that I'm laughing at myself. And then we're going to center and pop up our bunnies on top of the heart, and then put glue where the bunnies are before we adhere it to the kind of the top center of the card base, so that we can then place our sentiment underneath them, also popped up on foam tape. And that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you like these 3 cards. Don't forget to sign up for the Rabbit Hole Designs email so you can be aware of new releases, and also the Facebook group and Instagram so you can be aware of all the inspiration throughout the month for every new release. And we'll see you in the next video, guys.